Hey guys, this is Amanda. I'm back. I'm a hygienist. I've been a hygienist for 15 years. No, 13 years. And I love what I do, and I love talking about what I do. I love helping out those who are interested in hygiene. And so I said today we'll just talk. I hope you're having a fabulous day. I am home today. I'm not working. And so I said, let me just take some time to tell you guys what I love about being a hygienist. So get comfortable, get yourself something, a little drink. I have water. But you know what, with water, I always feel like, I know it's in a wine glass, but I drink my water out of wine glasses all the time because I'm not really a wine drinker. But I feel like, why can't water be fancy? Why does water have to go in like a regular glass or cup? So anyway, get yourself something to drink, and let's talk a little about why I love being a hygienist. So like I said, I've been a hygienist since 2012, so that's 13 years. And then I've been in the dental field for 15 years altogether. Before that, I was a dental assistant. Anyway, there's so many reasons why I love being a hygienist. Today, I'm just gonna go over just 3 of my major reasons of why I love the field of hygiene, I love the field of dentistry, and why, if you're interested in it, these are some of the perks, I would say. So, one of my favorite things that I mean, if you know me, you know this about hygiene because I say it all the time. One of my favorite things about being a hygienist is the flexibility. The flexibility. You know the interesting thing about the word flexibility? If any of you guys are in hygiene school right now or are considering going into hygiene school, your instructors tell you all the time, as a hygienist, you have to be flexible. You have to be flexible. And when they're saying that, they're meaning like, first of all, dental offices are all different. Your schedule might change or things like that. So you have to be flexible as a hygienist. But when I talk about flexibility in hygiene, I talk about life. Like scheduling your life as a hygienist is so flexible. You can really make it look however you want it to look. So one of the big things is you can work as a hygienist 5 days a week or 1 day a week. And I'll tell you myself, in my years, there's been a time where I worked 5 days a week, and there's been a time where I literally was working only 1 day a week. And that is not out of the norm as a hygienist. Sometimes you'll find offices who are looking for a hygienist, for a full-time hygienist, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Then you'll find offices who are like, we're looking for hygienists just for Tuesdays and Thursdays, or just Mondays and Wednesdays, or whatever. And then you can really just, if you're not interested in a full week, there are options, many options for you to work just a couple days a week. And I'm going to tell you, when I say 1 day a week, yes, because I worked for an office just on Fridays for 3 years. But I was hired for Fridays. I only wanted to do 1 day. And so I'm telling you, you can work. You can really build your own schedule. You can build what you want your week to be. And I think that's one of the best things. Another thing with the flexibility of the schedule is you can work at, like I told you, in office 5 days a week, 2 days a week, or whatever. Because of that flexibility, it allows you to make your week, like I said, look how you want it to look. There was a time where I worked at one office on Mondays and Wednesdays, another office on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that office I told you about on Fridays. So during the week, I was at 3 different offices. And I personally loved it for a couple of reasons. One, I had been at an office for almost 8 years full time. And so I just wanted to break up the monotony of being at the same place through the week. And so I told the office I'm going to drop down to 2 days. I picked up another office on Monday and Wednesday. And then about a month or 2 after I did that, I picked up a separate office for Friday. And I did that 5 days a week, 3 different offices during the week for I think 2 years. And let me tell you something. I love that. Every day you were going somewhere new or somewhere different than the day before with new faces. different office staff or whatever. Like, it was nice, and there is something to not being there all the time. I'm gonna be real honest. When you're not there all the time, sometimes when you work in the office, there could be dramas here and there. You're not really part of the dramas because you're just dipping in, dipping out. And I loved that. Like I told you though before, I worked in the office for Monday through Thursday. Those were the office hours. 5 days a week, 4 days a week, 8 to 5. I did that for almost 8 years. And there were reasons why I loved doing that too. I loved getting to know my patients. I was the sole hygienist at the office, so I had a really close connection with my patients. There are just the flexibility in building your own schedule. I always say for moms, especially, it is, my husband always, he calls it the princess job, because he's like, you can just work however you want to work. And it is true. You really can. You can tell yourself, okay, I want to full time. I want to get these coins. I want to work as much as I possibly can and do that. Or you can say, I really don't feel like working 5 days a week, and do that too. So think about the flexibility of hygiene. It is there. I mean, it's top notch. The next thing I will say is like the autonomy. Working, you work, on your own. Yes, the doctor comes in to see your patients for exams. Yes, sometimes you'll have an assistant help you with different things. But I love that, I have so much one-on-one time with my patients. I get to talk to them. I get to know them. I mean, I had so many patients who I saw grow up from like 4 or 5 years old to early teenagers. And that was so nice. Patients, they get to know you. All 3 of my kids, I was pregnant while working there. And so, they got to see me in my pregnancies. They would come in and give me gifts, because you really get a connection. Your patients, as a hygienist, they lie down the same way how you would do, like if you're going to like therapy or anything like that. And so it puts them at a relaxed position. They really, like, my fellow hygienists know, like, your patients, you will know about their life. There's so many patients who told me that they were getting a divorce before they even told their husbands, that they were pregnant, before they told me, before other people in their family knew. Like, we would discuss like, about moving different places. Like, you are so involved in your patient's life. I know that can sound kind of scary, but truthfully, it's kind of cool too, because you gain that connection with your patients, and you do that especially when you're there, especially when you are their only hygienist. So the autonomy of it, I just love that you have that one-on-one time for so long with your patients throughout their appointment. And also, you get to work, like, you get to do things how you want to do it. You scale in the sequence you like. You take your x-rays first or after, however you like. You kind of manage the way each appointment goes. You manage how you like the flow of your appointment to go. And it's just nice, you do your own thing in the chair. And I love that. I just loved that we get to just do we work how we work. We know what works best for us. Your patients, what works best for them, and you get to kind of create the flow of your appointment, what fits best for you both. And I really love that. The last thing I want to say, let me take a sip of my water. The last thing I want to say, which is probably why, a motivating factor of why a lot of people go into hygiene, is the salary. Can I get a cheers? Cheers. It's a good salary. And do we get paid like an exorbitant amount of money? No. But quite honestly, I don't know how many hygienists feel about this. The ones that I know and talk to, there's kind of a general understanding, like, coming out of hygiene, I think I discussed this in my video about the steps it takes to become a hygienist and going to hygiene school and applying to hygiene school, that we take a lot of the same prerequisites as nursing students do. We all have to take A&P 1 and 2. We all have to take nutrition. We all have to take microbiology. We all have to have our Englishes. We have almost identical prerequisites. And usually whatever school you go into, if they have a hygiene program and a nursing program, the prerequisites are usually identical. But I will say, coming out, generally, hygienists make more coming right out of school than a nurse does. And I'm gonna be real honest, like, we don't do as much work as they do. We're not on our feet for 12 hours. We get to sit and chat and talk to our patients. We're not running here and there. You know, we deal with one part of the body, a nice part of the body. And to do that and still get paid generally a little bit more. Now, I will say with nursing, they have a greater ceiling because they could go on and do this, that, and all their different degrees to get more money. But I will say that. And then as a hygienist, you know, I right now do temp work. So I'm not at an office all the time. I temp, you know, I help offices here and there as they need it. And as a temp hygienist, you generally get paid even more than a general hygienist when you're working in the office. So the pay is great. Depending on where you are, the pay looks different. But I will say overall, for the work that we do, the stress on ourselves and like how rigorous our job is, I think we get paid pretty well. I do. And so I'm sure you'll get different people to say, people say have different opinions on that. That is my opinion. That's one of the reasons why I love hygiene. You know, I think that the salary is great, you know, for what we do. And of course, you could always negotiate salary up or low, but overall, generally it is. And so I will say a little tip. If you feel like you're going to an office and the pay isn't what you want it to be, you don't have to, listen, go on any Indeed, go on any LinkedIn, go on any job site, and you'll see there are so many hygiene jobs. You do not have to settle. That is my big thing. I always tell new hygienists, you do not have to settle, so don't. So if you think you're not getting paid well enough, you know, go somewhere where, go somewhere where you think you are getting paid well enough. Now, don't get too greedy where you find yourself not being able to have a job. But anyway, yeah. So those are just a couple things. I just wanted to spend a little time with you guys and tell you, you know, a few things of why I love being a hygienist. If you're looking into hygiene, I highly recommend it. If there's anything else you'd like me to talk about on my channel, please let me know. This channel is just getting started. And so whatever you have in your mind about hygiene or the dental field or anything like that you want me to talk about, I am here for you and I will do just that. Other than that, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm so glad you guys took this time to sit with me. And so I would love to see you next time in my next video. So please put those notifications on so that you are aware when my next video pops up. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Don't forget to brush twice a day. Don't forget to floss at least once a day. But don't worry, you only have to floss the teeth that you want to keep. Have a wonderful day. Cheers.